Another big story we're tracking is the growing wildfire threat to communities across the country. Hot and windy conditions in Newfoundland are worsening the province's wildfire situation. The Paddy's Pond wildfire has grown to 2.5 square kilometers in size and is now burning quite close to St. John's. The threatening flames have already forced the evacuation of a nearby community and put thousands of people in the provincial capital on high alert. Last hour, the Premier, John Hogan, provided an update.
The Paddy's Pond fire continues to remain very hot and very smoky. Air suppression efforts, if you recall yesterday, we were looking at the north and the south side of that fire, and that did help slow the growth throughout the day. Ground crews, unfortunately, were pulled from the southern edge throughout the day due to extreme fire behavior. On the southern side, the wildfire is approximately 250 meters from the Trans-Canada Highway.
CBC's Heather Gillis is monitoring updates from St. John's for us. Heather, what's the latest on the wildfire situation across the province?
Well, as you can see here, it is another hot and windy day in the province, and that is expected to fan the flames and the extreme fire behavior that we have been seeing, especially late in the afternoon in this province. We've got thousands of people under a state of emergency in 2 regions of this province. Thousands also evacuated from their homes. So there are many people with their bag packed, ready to go. And then, of course, many who have been evacuated from their homes. The Kingston fire, which is now about 6,400 hectares, is the largest fire and the most destructive fire so far burning in this province. It grew a little bit northward last night and now sits below the community of Northern Bay. The Premier said that crews yesterday did make good progress trying to construct a fire break to keep that fire from moving towards that community. Meanwhile, the fire on the doorstep of St. John's, Paddy's Pond, it's estimated at about 212 hectares right now, with some slight growth. And as you heard the Premier say, crews were pulled from that fire yesterday who were on the ground because it was so hot and smoky. That fire just sitting about 250 meters from the Trans-Canada Highway. So parts of that highway are closed down, and people who live in behind that fire in an area of Paradise, which is basically a town connected to St. John's, did have to evacuate last night. Officials are sharing water bombers between 2 of these fires because they are about 100 kilometers apart, and that has been controversial for some people who are living near the fires because they worry that this province doesn't have enough resources. But to prevent more fires from starting, because that is the big concern with this weather, the Premier has made an announcement today that ATVs or off-road vehicles are now banned from the woods until at least Sunday.
Out of an extreme abundance of caution, and given, as I said, the finite resources we have in this province and in this country, we will be issuing an order to declare a province-wide restriction on off-road vehicle use on forested land for the purpose of reducing the probability of a wildfire during this high fire hazard season.
And this applies to any area in the province that has a fire hazard index of high or even higher than that. And the Premier did speak with the Prime Minister last night. He spoke with Mark Carney, who has offered any and all help from the federal government, from logistics to firefighting support.
Heather, you mentioned there the evacuation orders related to some properties that are affected by the Paddy's Pond fire. Things move pretty quickly. What can you tell us about the current state of the evacuation orders right now?
So near the Kingston fire, that's the largest fire that's burning in the province right now, there is an estimated 3,000 people out of their homes. And in that area, it is expected that there has been significant homes. It's far too early communities just to see exactly what has been lost. So it's such a troubling time for people from that area because they don't know if they have homes to return back to, things that they've spent their entire lives building. Near Paddy's Pond, it's only about a dozen streets that have been evacuated. So that area is much smaller, but people in St. John's, in Conception Bay South, in Paradise are on alert in some areas that are closest to the fire. They're supposed to have their bags packed and ready to go just in case anything changes and that they might have to be ordered from their homes as well. So, of course, it is a trying time. And here's what one evacuee had to say about trying to get out from the Kingston fire.
driving out of our community in this motorhome with our 2 dogs and my partner Peg. And there's an area, a part of the road that leads out of our community that everybody calls the snake. It winds, it just winds. And to the right, the hills were on fire. And it was like a bad apocalyptic horror film.
So just a scary time for so many people. Given the hot, dry weather that we have right here, we do have a provincial fire ban in place, and there are restrictions on working in forestry in the woods as well. And the Premier says there have been 2 $50,000 fines issued for people breaking the rules about working in the woods, doing activities like mulching.
CBC's Heather Gillis in St. John's. Thank you. Now, my next guest did have to leave his home in the town of Paradise yesterday. He's now staying with his daughter in an area 20 minutes drive away from Paddy's Pond wildfire. Rod Coward joins us now from Portugal Cove, St. Philip's. Rod, I can only imagine it's been a pretty stressful time for you here. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's been pretty stressful, trying to get myself organized, my family organized, my business organized. It's a lot to come in all at one time, for sure.
So you had been on evacuation alert, and you're part of a relatively, to what we're seeing elsewhere in the province, a small group that have so far had to be evacuated from the Paddy's Pond fire area. Talk to me about the process when that alert turned to order. What went through your mind?
The first thing went through my mind was to get home, get my dogs, and get out as soon as possible. I made some prep work before because we were on an alert anyway, but no one knew when the alert was going to be triggered, and just so happened that when we did get the alert, it flashed up on the phone, and of course it was. Okay, now we got to action the plans that I made earlier for today.
Yeah, so you weren't home, right? You were working when this alert turned to an order. How much time did you? Great that you had the preparations sort of ready to go. How much time did you actually have?
Well, as soon as I was in the middle of a call, I was in the middle of a drop off, trying to get as much equipment off my property as possible, and. I was on my way to drop the equipment, and I didn't know if I was going to offload or just drop the trailer because everybody was saying you got to get out. And when I seen the police presence, they were blocking off roads. I knew right away that it wasn't going to be a whole lot of time. And when I made it back to my house, sure enough, police had. All access to all roads blocked off, and I begged and pleaded to get back so I can get my dogs out, and they graciously agreed, but it was basically tapping their foot saying, hurry up, get out.
Great. Well, you've got your dogs, and now you are with your daughter, and I understand she lives about 20 minutes away. Is she under an evacuation alert as well?
No, not at this time. She's out in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's. It's due north of where I was too. So she's not under any evacuation notice at this time. But should she be, we've got a lot of resources to pull from that we can draw upon should we have to relocate for the second time.
You were talking about dropping off equipment. I understand that you run a business related to weddings. You provide sort of outdoor weddings, the tents and that kind of equipment. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's correct. So I knew that based on other evacuations that had occurred, everybody was posting on Facebook that you weren't getting back in under no circumstances. So I had a number of clients that has weddings this weekend, and my personal issues with being stuck at home, unable to get access to my home. Their wedding is still going ahead, so because it's a priority for them, it's certainly a priority for me. So I had to drop off as much gear as I could related to the tents, the chairs, tables, and all the supporting equipment. Get as much out as I can because I knew there was no going back, unfortunately.
I'm guessing that a place like Paradise is probably is it a popular place for people to get married? Getting married in Paradise sounds pretty great. Have you talked to these couples as you're dropping this stuff off, the families? What kind of stress is that like?
Stress level is pretty high. The customer that I had dropped it off to was the parents of the bride, and she was informing me that the bride herself was also in the evacuation list. The evacuation order next to get evacuated. They were pretty stressed out, and of course, knowing that when they saw the alert, because it come on their phone as well, their panic situation was, did he get the equipment out? Are we going to have anything for our wedding? Or are we going to be sitting on the lawn around a virtual campfire trying to have a wedding in CBS? So fortunately, it was the last thing that I got was the 95% of the equipment for her wedding. So the major portion is there. And they understood that we were under an evacuation order, and is basically grab what you can while you can, and we'll work with what we got.
Were you able to get it all out by yourself? We've heard lots of stories about businesses that have been trying to do similar things to yourself, save, the business, the supplies that you have, about community members reaching out to help. What's been the support you've received?
Unfortunately, I didn't get everything out. I anticipated the order coming, and unfortunately, I was injured last week, and so trying to recover from an injury while trying to load the trailer and get as much gear on as I could, it was quite challenging. And then my family members, just as I was finishing up, my family members ended up showing up to help with the personal evacuation equipment, but the equipment evacuation, I piled on as much as I could, basically to the point that I couldn't pile on anymore. So I made do with what I had. So yeah, it was a stressful time for sure.
Well, Rod, we'll certainly hope that the home, all that equipment, the business, that it's all going to be there when you return, and that return is going to happen sooner than later for you. Thank you so much for the conversation, and good luck. Rod Coward is a wildfire evacuee.